Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer. I'm sitting in my back garden today. So today's video is a little contemplative, I suppose. Not out and about in the countryside doing walks or looking at heritage, nature and landscape, although we're going to have a look at the landscape in my back garden. So if you've been following me fairly recently, you'll know that I have this idea, this plan, this dream, if you like, to own a piece of land and look at heritage farming techniques, growing hay meadows, perhaps growing some barley, harvesting the barley, turning that seed into malt, grinding it on a homemade windmill, and then perhaps making some beer from it, or with wheat, doing the same thing but turning it into flour. Actually, I don't think you grind the malt, do you, when you make beer? Little error there that you probably noticed. Yeah, to make flour and then to make my own bread, to be sort of self-sufficient, but at the same time explore some of the older traditional techniques. And I was looking, and I am looking, for a piece of land between 3 and 5 acres, but here in the southeast that is going to be prohibitively expensive. So I'm still not quite sure. Now, I made a video the other day where I was looking for one which was just 1/10 of an acre, which was fairly near, about 20 minutes away, about 6 miles, something like that, in Thacombe, and lots of interesting reactions to that. However, I think that ultimately, unless I can get a piece of land near where I live, because some of the laws seem draconian really, that you can own a piece of land but you can't put a caravan on it and leave it there for any length of time, or stay in it whilst you're working on the land. Well, that seems such a backward step, not to be able to let people farm the land and actually be able to stay on the land. Now, I can understand that they don't want people to, hundreds of people, like gypsies, turning up and perpetuating the land, and you know, I think the law could be fashioned in a way that makes that possible, that a single person could stay so many nights a month, various stipulations to prevent perhaps travellers just invading bits of land. I mean, but if you own the land yourself and you take away all your rubbish, including all your ablutions and stuff, and in a caravan, then I would have thought that would be possible. I don't know if you could just bring a caravan for one night onto your land and then take it away again, or live in a van. That would be my sort of answer, and stay there a few nights whilst you're working on the land. I don't know. But all of this is whether it's within my budget, and my budget comes from selling my father's house, which my sister and I were left when he died. There are a few other bills that have got to come out of that money before we get our share on it. So it's not going to be a huge amount. And to try and buy the necessary land, I mean, the 1/10 of an acre was 10 grand. So, as people have pointed out to me, that a whole acre of land would be £100,000, which seems a hell of a lot of money. So I've been thinking, well, until or unless I can get that situation sorted out, I may have to try and utilize what tiny space I have in my back garden. Now, I live in a Victorian 2-up, 2-down townhouse with a yard. Now, for the benefit of the Americans who call yards their gardens, over here in Britain, in England, a yard is very much a paved area, paved or concreted. It's a solid area, i.e. no grass, no whatever. And my yard, as you can see here, is just really a passage. I have a shed which I use for storage, and this passage is very much for my wood, because I have an Essie Ironheart, which is a wood burning stove which I cook on, heat my water on, and also dry my clothes on, and it heats the house. I don't have gas anymore, and I don't use electricity for cooking with, although I do have an induction hob, which I use very rarely, but mostly I use the Essie. So I thought, and I've proposed this idea in my private podcast, The Naked Englishman, and I think I've spoken about it on the Vobes show, but I think if I was to have almost a roof to the passage, 8 foot high, maybe 7 foot high, above me here, that I could perhaps utilize the space above to act as a roof garden. Now, I recently made a video about a roof garden, which Tony Whitbread is doing, and he's just got it going. He is going to be planting wild flowers, but in boxes, in tubs and things, I could plant my vegetables all along this stretch, but also above, if I replace the shed that I've got, which is a bit dilapidated, with a new shed, a stronger shed, on the roof of that. That would give me quite a floor plan here to plant vegetables, at least, because part of what I want to do also, obviously I won't be able to have there's just really not enough space for a proper wild meadow, or even growing barley or wheat or any of those things, but vegetables. I want to grow my own vegetables, because I am more and more concerned that the intensive industrialized farming techniques that we see, these massive fields of vegetables and arable crops that are being grown, are so overworked. The soil is so redundant in its fertility, and artificial fertility is put into it, along with pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, that the nutrients and minerals have been stripped out. And I know I've been talking about this for a while, and it really is a concern, because if you go back 80 years, back to before all of this industrialized farming and the new agrochemicals came along, the food quality was a lot better. We had smaller farms, we had wildlife and farming, mixed farming, small mixed farming, and beautiful fields. And I don't really understand why we have this huge amount of land that's turned into prairie land, which has devoid our countryside of not all, but huge swathes of wildlife that we enjoy, and has changed the aesthetics. When we've been farming for 10,000 years and we've managed to survive. Now, I know some people say, oh, but we've only done it by the skin of our teeth. What, really? For 10,000 years, and all of a sudden we think that we know better now? I don't subscribe to that. The other argument is, well, there's so many more people and we need to have this style of farming, otherwise we can't feed each other. I also have read reports that isn't really the case, that actually we can be just as productive farming organically rather than with great big, with pesticides and all of that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm worried about the vegetables, so I want to take control of the soil quality and grow what I can in a north-facing garden, so wouldn't be have much sunshine. Might get a bit of sunshine first thing and last thing at night here if it's high enough, and give that a go. So this project might take a couple of weeks to clear the garden, empty the shed, rebuild the shed, build stilts, put the roof garden up here, and underneath I'd still store all my logs. So it's a project that I'm not going to leap into immediately, but perhaps try and get this organised before winter comes in the autumn. But I think it is, in the short term, probably the only way that I'm going to be able to start growing my own stuff, and then possibly, rather than look for a piece of land locally which may be miles away, which obviously was going to have a lot of problems if your land is so far from your house, is to think about selling up here and buying a ramshackle little place somewhere that's got its own land with an acre of land. I mean, a back garden won't be enough. I could have moved into my dad's place, I suppose, bought my sister out, sold this, bought my sister out, and just had that back garden, but that's ultimately not enough, and I don't want to live in Goring. It's far too expensive all around there, so it may be that I have to sell this, as I say, find a dilapidated place with a couple of acres and start from scratch, even though I'm in my mid to late 50s now. But I can feel the challenge and the pangs to do that, rather than stay in a very busy, ever increasingly noisy, stressful environment that the towns are now becoming in this country. I need to be surrounded by nature, and that's, I think, where I'm going to try over the next 12 months to get to. Still want to do the walking videos, still want to do the exploring videos, but as one grows, one's outlook develops. Anyway, this is just a very quick, simple little video to talk about my plans. Hope you found it interesting. Always interested in your comments, so do leave them down below, and I'll hopefully be out and about exploring the countryside again in the next one. Take care, and thanks so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.